Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Seasons and Ritual and Independence Street Tarot, and I'm here to wish you a happy fall equinox. It is the 23rd of September. It is the first day of Libra season. And okay, if you guys watch me, you know I love all the seasons. Um, but the part I love the most about the fall equinox is the story of Persephone, and not the original story, but how I think this myth is going to be um, retold as we move more into this time of this divine feminine rising. And the if you're not familiar with the original Greek myth, it is that Vulcan, the god of the underworld, and I'll probably get the Greek names and stuff. I'll probably go back and forth. So Hades, Vulcan, the god of the underworld, sees Persephone picking flowers. She's the goddess of spring. And he goes and abducts her. He's taken by her. And so he decides not to go on a date or, call me. He decides just to abduct her and take her to the underground. And Demeter, her mother, starts to wonder where she is, and she starts to fall into a deep depression. And so the sadder Demeter gets, that is when the fall starts getting colder and we move into winter. So the old story of rape and abduction from a man getting what he wants, I just don't think is going to well, it just doesn't resonate anymore. And it's not going to keep, and it's just not, it doesn't resonate now, and it's not going to move forward in that old theme of the patriarchy. And also in this Greek myth, the Helios and Hecate are the only two that witness this abduction. And Helios, as you know, is the sun, and Hecate now is seen as, I don't say the mother, the queen, the priestess, the high priestess of the underground as well. And the fact that she sees, like, she's always been reverenced as or revered as past, future, present, past, present, future, right? So Hecate is the mother of artists. Hecate is the mother of lost souls. People work with Hecate because she has the ability to see all, right? And some of this comes from this idea that she saw this abduction. And what's interesting is Helios could have told Demeter, but he didn't. He kept quiet. And Hecate, seeing Demeter, getting more and more upset, finally just said, "Hey, Persephone's in the underworld. She was kidnapped." So, and then Zeus and Hades allowed Hecate to go down there and spend time with Persephone and see if she was okay. And then she was able to travel back from the underworld to appear and tell Demeter she's fine. And so that also, the fact that she was given that strength and that grace to travel between worlds, right? She was able to go to the underworld and then come back to the mainland, the main world. No one else could do that. No one else could do that. You were either in the underworld or you were above. The only other one, and I always bring this up, was the one who went down there to get his girlfriend, and he played the liar, and it moved Hades that he says, yes, you can take your girlfriend back, but he was told you can't watch her. You just have to hold her hand and take her back up to the above world, because he wasn't allowed to see the regeneration. And right before they got to the top, he couldn't help but look back, because he wasn't sure if this was really happening, and she went back down. Miss Ritter is not going to be happy with me that I don't have all this knowledge wrote in my mind right now. So but I'm trying, Miss Ritter. I'm trying. She was our mythology teacher when I was in high school. So, so moving forward, and I've talked on this before. I talked about this last year with Michelle, but the idea of, Persephone maybe falling in love with Hades, and deciding, allowing it to be her choice to go to the underworld and spend half the year with him. That wouldn't have been heard of for many of reasons. First and foremost, a beautiful young woman deciding to go live in the underworld, and that with free will, saying, yes, I can do this, I can go down there, I can, because with the myth is that she goes down there and then she likes it, she appreciates it, she's the goddess of the underworld, she's the queen of the underworld, and so if you go back to the old myth, it's just disgusting that, it's disgusting the fact that it doesn't allow women to have their own mind. They're forced into things they weren't asked. And then the idea that, oh, but like, I know better. Once you get down here, you're gonna like it. It's so gross. I can't even. I don't even have it with myself that I said it out loud. Okay. And so that energy isn't here anymore on the planet. That energy is leaving, and it's going to keep leaving, right? And so the idea that Persephone fell in love because that was her choice, then decided to go down there, and it could have gone down there against her mother's wishes, again, we do plenty of things against our mother's wishes because they want to keep us quote unquote safe. That idea of this myth, I think, is what's going to keep moving forward, because the thing is, if stories don't resonate, they die out. They just don't. People are like, have you ever heard the story of so and so? And people are like, no, because it doesn't resonate. So, could all these myths die out? I mean, they very well could. We can just, because the idea is that we do start writing our own myth. We always talk about the hero's journey, right? We are our own hero in our own journey. So, and that could be a possibility as well. I do think it's also interesting, going back to Hecate, is that because she did tell Demeter what happened, which brought her solace, and then she was able to travel back and forth between the two worlds. I find that very interesting because, again, it speaks to a woman speaking the truth, letting things be known, and then being able to see more, right? To be able to travel back and forth because it is okay. It was her right. It was her speaking up. And the idea that Helios saw it and stayed quiet is so interesting, because I feel like that's that old, like the old dudes, old boys club. Like, you see something wrong, but you can't say anything about it because, it's like another guy doing it. So you kind of keep quiet, right? And then, and all of that is changing, right? All of that those patriarchal things are changing. And so the idea, and maybe as we move this myth forward, maybe Helios never says anything, but maybe him and Hecate both agree that, Hecate should be the one to tell Demeter, I'm not sure, because that patriarchy energy wasn't good for females, but it also wasn't good for males either. The idea, if you're afraid to speak up because you can't, right? That's the patriarchy. That's being oppressed. That's being told no, and so the idea that you can speak up and you will be heard, right? That's not the patriarchy. So we'll see how this moves. We'll see how this story, this myth, keeps evolving. I like the idea that Persephone fell in love with this gnarled old dude in the underworld, and because love is love. Which also, love was written out of almost all the myths. Love was always the last thing. Love was the thing that got you in trouble, right? Love was how you made a fool of yourself, and all those things. So the idea that she fell in love with someone and had a great life and was able to, go back and forth as well, leave the underworld and then come back to the other world, and just be fine. That wasn't looked upon that wasn't looked upon. They in these myths, it was all about might and strength and knowledge, the warrior, right? And this goes back to the idea when Paris had to choose, right, when the golden apple was thrown, and Paris chose love, right? And that started the Trojan War, right? So it was like, okay, yeah, you want love? Hey, good. Look what's going to happen, right? And I find that so interesting that they didn't write love into any of these myths. So now, where we are now, moving into this age of Aquarius, which actually, if you think of Aquarius, it is an air sign, which would go back to the head. But I always say it is about the heart. We have to start making decisions from our heart. We have to start making decisions with love, right? And it's hard on many reasons, mainly because all the stories, all the myths that we told about love usually don't end very well. All the star-crossed lovers, Jesus loved the world so much they put his ass on a cross, like we got a lot to sort through. Okay. So so here we are, we're coming into fall. It's the first day of fall. It's starting on the 23rd. It is late. It's starting late this year. And I think it's because it really wants to be seen. I think the seasons are really trying to call out to us and say, hey, look, as people, we do go through seasons. We do experience things at certain times. Also, if we wonder why, like, we fall into a seasonal depression or we get sad, we were taught that Demeter goes into a deep depression and then winter comes. Okay, so it's to me, it's a no-brainer why we get sad, because yes, we do need sun, we do need vitamin C, but it was told to us this is what we do. We're supposed to get depressed during the winter. So if we start seeing this as on one hand, up here, we're happy, up here, like, okay, we don't have much sun, we might be a little, but the idea is that we start going within when we come into winter, right? Like the fall, as we start stepping away, we start going within, we start going down, right? And so that Persephone, she starts going down, and on her end, if we are changing this narrative that this is where she wants to go, she knew that we couldn't just live in eternal sunshine and eternal spring, that we needed to have seasons, right? And taking that upon her, knowing that that would really disappoint her family, it would really disappoint her mother, but she saw a bigger cause, right? Like, she's like, I have to do this. At the same time, she had the right to go be with her love, right? So if we are changing this myth, when she starts going down, this is her joyful time. Fall and winter is when she's well, not the most joyful, but she's joyful because she is with her love, right? And so if we were to focus on that side of the story, it would be, okay, so we're going into winter, or we're going into fall. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're going into fall. So we start noticing the days get shorter. And so it's telling us that we need to go within. And so how do we become joyful with this idea of going within? How do we become joyful? Because I'm like everyone else, I notice, I'm like, the sun, I've been going for walks a lot now lately, and because it's not 1,016 degrees outside. And I notice now, the sun's going down. It's not staying out as long. And I get a little, at the same time, I was thinking about this. And so how do we start to celebrate? Oh, the sun is getting shorter. So this is a good time for us, because we do get to go within. We get to find this new love of being, in the underground, if you will. And because the other thing is, if we're not scared of the underground, if we're not scared of the dark, if we see the magic in the void and the magic, if we see the magic in this idea of death and hibernation, well, then that also frees us. Frees, like free is us, not freeze as in cold, not like winter freeze. And so then that helps us stay out of duality. that helps us start to understand, like, going within and being quiet is totally fine, or going within and finding that happiness within us is okay. It also tells us that if we listen to our intuition and our instincts, even though maybe our mom or dad doesn't want us to do it, but we do, and we blaze our own path and find that happiness, and at the same time, if we bring this myth, into where we are now, the idea is that there's always communication, right? Hecate was able to communicate. She was the one going back and forth between um, Persephone and Demeter, and that communication, if you see her as that thread, which is interesting because I pulled that for the tarot scope, but we'll get there later in another video. If you see her as that thread, going from the underground to the above ground, that made Hecate strong. Being able to navigate between both worlds is what made her strong. Persephone being able to navigate both worlds, what makes her strong. And that's really important, I think, for us to remember. We might have a favorite season, of course. At the same time, we are able to navigate all these seasons. We are able to navigate everything at the right time. That's why I know if I would put these things out sooner, I would probably get more likes and stuff because the way algorithms work, but I really want us to kind of focus and stay present. And so right now, we're focusing on the fall. And so I think the way everything's moving is that we want to remember seasons. We want to focus on the fall, okay? And then as we work within the energy of the fall, then we're ready to move into winter. And I say that tentatively because we're going to move into winter whether we want to or not. And sometimes the winter is baloney, especially now with the way the weather is. But the main idea is that we can and we will. And if we have a different understanding of how we work within each season, and the way we work within those seasons makes us stronger, right? Going between the worlds, going between the seasons, then that gives us that empowers us, right? That empowers our minds. It empowers, it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel secure. It allows you to be able to speak to your neighbor and see how they're doing and give them a sense of empowerment, instead of the old story that you're just bebopping along and then someone comes and rips your ass and takes you to the underworld, like that just doesn't, that was that time, and we're moving into a new time. We are. Pluto, that is in Capricorn, right, is starting to realize, oh wait, I've got to change course one more time, right? He'll station direct in October. October, we will have our annual eclipses, right? So October is going to be eclipse season. And then also in fall, Saturn and Neptune will turn direct. So this fall season is going to be a lot of movement. It's got to be a lot of us changing directions, if you will. Even if we're on we've like a lot of us has already started to change directions, and so we're going to probably keep on that path. But how we get there might be a little bit different than we originally imagined. And so, stay open for the easiest path to get there. Stay open to different ideas or different ways of speaking in order to get us there. Also, kind of when I was thinking about the fall season, I felt like, the word turbulence came up, which, if you've ever been on an airplane or something and the turbulence comes up and you're like, oh shit, right? But then when it's over, it's over. So you still get to where you're supposed to be going. It just might be a little bumpy for a few minutes, right? Which isn't wild to think about since we're going to get into eclipse season. So I just wanted to come on, and I will probably be doing this until the day I die, because I love talking about the mythology of Demeter and Persephone, and the way that we can change this myth, because we're allowed to, to fit how we are now. in this day and age, and how, and at the same time that there are just so much bits of wisdom in that story. And it's so interesting to me about how the bits of wisdom that I think that are left out, that we don't talk about, right? That we kind of ignore. And I say that from my perspective of learning. I mean, I learned mythology in high school, right? And we kind of, and I kept up with it as much, I guess, as anyone can. I didn't do like college courses or anything on it. Oh, wait, yes, I did. I did 101. I did 101. And my teacher at the time, his wife was having a baby. So I think we all got A's. So, okay, so maybe I didn't keep up with it that much, but roll tide. So, but it's important, if you guys go back and you do decide to read these myths, see what's missing, you know, see why it doesn't make sense, see why it's so gross, right? Like, and see why and how important it is to change the storyline to fit you to where you are now, to make you feel empowered, right? To give the power back to Persephone, right? And it's okay if Demeter still gets sad, you know, if Demeter still wants her daughter to be with her at all times, you know. I mean, moms do that. I mean, you know, at the same time, we all have to grow and evolve, right? And we all have to do what we feel is the best thing to do. And it's even great if you're doing that and you have a friend like Hacate that can then, you know, give you messages. So then you don't have to maybe speak directly, and then you don't get yelled at, which is always a plus. It's always a bonus when maybe dealing with your family or things in that nature. So, but also think about the idea of how joyful it can be to start going within and giving yourself that quote unquote break, right? Being able to go hibernate and, you know, tool around inside your heart, or tool around inside, you know. This is a good time to make sure, you know, this is what I say, I mean, with like all the time equinoxes and solstice, but, you know, make sure you do a little cleanup around the house. That's what I'm going to do afterwards, after I make this video, and then maybe go watch some college football. But it's also, again, a time to give reverence to how far we've come from the summer. It's a time to look forward, right? And it's also just a time to like sit with yourself and give yourself a minute and just say, okay, let's just start stepping down gradually to start getting into this fall season. And then, you know, once winter gets here, we can focus on that later. Okay. So it's a beautiful day. If you are able to go outside and enjoy the day, please do. I will be on here later. I'll probably upload it sometime tomorrow when I do the fall tarot scopes. I'm excited. I pulled a couple cards already, and they're good. They're good. It's a good one. Okay. But until then, have a great equinox. Like and subscribe, all those things. Helen and I will do our weekly chat, celestial update, that will be posted on Monday as well. Oh, it's 11:11, so we'll leave it there. Okay, till next time, guys.